عليكم السلام. شوية عربي شوية. نعم نعم. All right. It's almost there. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Brothers and sisters, if you can come close so we can don't leave me here alone. Show me some love. Come close. Alhamdulillah, we started Surah Al-Mulk. This is our 4th week. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept this amal and write it for us as salihan wa mukhlasan liwajhi. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make us among the people of Quran. Surah Al-Mulk, subhanallah, if everybody knows the value, this place should be packed by now. Unfortunately, this is our state of our ummah. Surah Al-Mulk, my brother, sister, as I said before, it's a surah al-mani'a. هي surah mani'a. تمنع الإنسان من عذاب القبر أو تحجبه من عذاب القبر. Is a protector from the grave or the punishment. And Surah Al-Mulk, when you look at it and you internalize its message, it changes the behavior of the believer. It's a surah that demands us to look, to think, to reflect, to analyze. It is surah that destroys the arrogance of the person. It shows how we are so dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has all the control. He knows what you're doing. He knows what's inside you. He knows everything that goes inside your mind and every idea before it comes to your mind. يعلم الغيب. يعلم السر everything subhanahu wa ta'ala. It'll prepare you for the grave. Why? Because it'll give you it will increase your taqwa. It's supposed to increase your taqwa. It's supposed to give you the humility. It's supposed to tell you what you're accountable for. And also make you aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through His creation. This surah is azima surah. It's not just reading it and you're going to be safe. It's to internalize it, to understand it, and to apply it. So today, inshallah, what we're going to do is, for those who did not make it last 3 weeks, I'm going to give you the high-level surah Al-Mulk. This is a tafsir, we call it tafsir al-mawdu'i, يعني المواضع, or the idea that was discussed, very high level. So what I share with you is the Surah Al-Mulk. You can divide it into 7 sections. The first section is Allah's power. And this is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to focus on His dominion and moral and sincerity. The next section, from 3 to 5, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us to look and reflect on His creations. He stressed perfection of His creation through the sky, nujum, the earth, provisions, and so forth. He discussed so many things in there. And then he went to section 6 to 11. This is where he discussed the hellfire, the regrets, and he discussed the scenery of the sa'ir, and it was one of the scary imagery in there. He discussed the hellfire, وضعية الناس في جهنم. He talked about that. And then the 4th section, Allah's knowledge. Allah's knowledge. He emphasized on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, يعلم الغيب. He knows everything. He knows the unseen. He knows, and this is supposed to make you sincere and ihsan with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You should realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything what you do. And this will give you a sense of ihsan, that you worship as though you are looking at Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 5, it was the human weakness in Allah's gift. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we discussed, when He said, He made this earth for you, subdue for you. He gave you the food, provision. But then He started asking you, well, who's going to protect you? Who's going to provide for you? Right? Remember that? So he's telling you, you have nothing. You have to have full dependence on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He shared with you how you are weak and you have pretty much you are in serious need for him subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the next section was resurrection again. That the people of the hellfire, they start denying, they start mocking. And we're going to discuss that today, inshallah. This is going to be our topic. And then we do the conclusion again. And in conclusion, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep reminding us how we are so in need for him. You're not going to survive without him. So let's dive into verse 25. Okay. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَيَقُولُونَ مَتَى هَذَا الْوَعْدُ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. This is, I'm going to start actually, did I say 24? Yeah, 25. That's fine. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and they will ask, they will say, when this promise be fulfilled? Al-wa'd means the promise, the hereafter, the final hours. And subhanahu wa ta'ala, these people are mocking the resurrection. They're making fun of that. Show us, tell us when this thing, you've been talking about it. Tell us, let this hour comes. Come on. This is what they're saying. And so they confuse, the delay, the fact because it's delay, it does not mean it does not exist. And this mockery, it shows their arrogance. Their arrogance. And subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us many times how the death, and this is a lesson for you and I, just because you're living happy and everything's good, and that doesn't mean death can come anytime. Right? And many verses in Quran like that. أينما تكونوا يدرككم الموت ولو كنتم في بروج مشيدة. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, wherever you might be, that death will catch you, even if you are in fortified towers, even if you are with all the security, with all, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talk about security here. Remember about the in the previous verses, who's going to protect you with all your security and all your camera? Who's going to protect you? Right? So this ayah here, it'll emphasize the fact that no matter where you are, the wa'd is going to come. Wa'd is coming. And this is something you're supposed to always reflect on. And that's why Rasulullah ﷺ always said, always remember the destroyer of what? Of the pleasure. The death. Always. Always remember. It's possible to keep you on your toes. Number 26. قُلْ إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ وَإِنَّمَا أَنَا نَذِيرٌ مُبِينٌ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, say knowledge is with Allah, and I'm only clear warner. So I want to talk about a little bit about this. The word إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ, this is called exclusivity. That means the knowledge is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only. And it's sometimes is really not befitting for someone to say, that person has knowledge. Nobody has knowledge. Knowledge is only with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember that. قُلْ إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ وَإِنَّمَا أَنَا نَذِيرٌ مُبِينٌ. Because he was just talking about what? He's talking about those who deny the wa'd, right? And he said wa'd is something ghaib. Nobody can know, right? It's ghaib. And that's why he said, you know what? إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. Finally, and he said, وَإِنَّمَا أَنَا نَذِيرٌ مُبِينٌ. What does Nadir Mubin means? Nadir Mubin, ulama says, a clear warner, the warner who does it genuinely, with loving, with caring. And that's how we're supposed to be. If you're going to be in da'wah, you have to have an interest in people, not in yourself. If you're going to be in da'wah and you're going to teach, have the interest and have to be genuine, and you're only doing it for the sake, for the benefit of others. In them, right? Then he said in ayah 27, okay, and I'm going a little bit fast here because I want to finish my 7. Then he said, فَلَمَّا رَأَوْهُ زُلْفَةً سِيئَتْ وُجُوهُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَقِيلَ هَذَا الَّذِي كُنْتُمْ بِهِ تَدَّعُونَ. And then when they see this wa'd, right, is getting close to them, the face of those who disbelieve are going to look terrible. سِيئَتْ وُجُوهُ الَّذِينَ مِنَ السَّوْءِ. And it will be said to them, this is what you were making claim about. تَدَّعُونَ means tatlubun. This is the one you've been asking for. Here comes. فَلَمَّا رَأَوْهُ زُلْفَةً. You know what's funny about the Arabic, actually? فَلَمَّا رَأَوْا زُلْفَةً, he didn't say فَلَمَّا يَرَوْهُ. فَلَمَّا رَأَوْهُ, that means they have seen it. And this is common in Arabic, in Quran. Right? أَتَى أَمْرُ اللَّهِ فَلَا تَسْتَعْجِلُوهُ. أَتَى أَمْرُ اللَّهِ in Surah Nahl. أَتَى, that means the hour has arrived. But it hasn't arrived. So sometimes in the word past sentence means it's done. Just like when we say it's done, consider it done. You know? If someone asks you, can you please do this for me? Consider it done. In Arabic, we do the same thing. We use past tense. It's like it's done. Done. Consider it done. So he said, فَلَمَّا رَأَوْا زُلْفَةً, and when they've seen it, Zulfa is very, very close to them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَإِنَّ لَهُ عِنْدَنَا لَزُلْفَى وَحُسْنَ مَآبٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about Sulaiman and Dawood. They are near to us. They are near. Zulfa means very, very, very near to us. And so, فَلَمَّا رَأَوْا زُلْفَةً سِيئَتْ وَجُوهُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, their face is going to turn terrible. وَقِيلَ لَهُمْ, and they will be said to them, this is the one you've been asking for. Here is reality now. And so, as I always continue, in every section I share with you takeaway. The takeaway from this section here to do resurrection is really Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us clear affirmation of the hereafter. And also, it has a clear warning to deniers. This is really the message for this section here. Next section, 28 to 30, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُمْ إِنْ أَهْلَكَنِيَ اللَّهُ وَمَنْ مَعِيَ أَوْ رَحِمَنَا فَمَنْ يُجِيرُ الْكَافِرِينَ مِنْ عَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ. I want to talk about some word here. The word yujiru. So let me explain this in English. He said, say, have you considered, should Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make me perish and those with me, or else He bestowed His mercy on us, who will protect this believer from this tournament, from this terrible tournament? So what he's saying, before I dive into the meaning of this, I always talk about the vocabulary, some of the kalimat, mu'aqqada. Then tujiru. What does tujiru means? فَمَنْ يُجِيرُ جِيرُ مِنْ جَار. You know jar? Neighbor. Right? Jar, neighbor. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Tawbah, وَإِنْ أَحَدٌ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ اسْتَجَارَكَ فَأَجِرْهُ. If anyone from the polytheists asks you for protection, give him protection. What that means, this is just a side note, your neighbor is called jar. And jar means to protect someone. That means you're supposed to be nice to your neighbor. Right? That's what that means. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used this word, فَمَنْ يُجِيرُ, أي, who's going to protect this believer from this punishment if Allah has punished me, have perished me, destroy me and everyone with me? Who's going to actually help this believer? Who's going to come is going to look after you? And subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُمْ إِنْ أَهْلَكَنِي اللَّهُ وَمَنْ مَعِيَ أَوْ رَحِمَنَا. I want you to really pay attention to this. He would have said, in a normal conversation, he would say, قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُمْ إِنْ أَهْلَكَنِي اللَّهُ وَمَنْ مَعِيَ أَوْ أَحْيَانَنَا. Right? Because he said, have you considered Allah will make us perish, He either will destroy us, right? And everyone with me, or will make us alive, right? That's really the proper way of saying it. He didn't say that. He said, أَوْ رَحِمَنَا. He didn't say, keep us alive. He said, or He will have a mercy on us. But then why did He say رَحِمَنَا? Ulama says, to be alive, like you and I, is part of His mercy. It's part of a mercy to be alive. It's a chance you and I have now to worship Him and to get close to Him, just to be alive. Because once you go, man, you lost that opportunity. Oh, rahimana. For rahma, it is the biggest thing, subhanAllah. Just to be alive is a mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, قُلْ هُوَ الرَّحْمَنُ آمَنَّا بِهِ وَعَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْنَا فَسَتَعْلَمُونَ مَنْ هُوَ فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. This is one of the most important ayah at this last section. Remember, I said the pivotal ayah is in the beginning, Tabarakalladhi. And then this one is a very, very important. I'll tell you why. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قُلْ هُوَ الرَّحْمَنُ آمَنَّا بِهِ. Say, He is the most merciful. We have faith in Him, and in Him we trust. Soon you will know who is in evidence error, or who is in a wrong path. Listen to this. قُلْ هُوَ الرَّحْمَنُ. Say, He is the most merciful. Ulama said this phrase means, despite everything they've said, this disbelief, despite their mockery, despite their making fun of and challenging the Prophet ﷺ about al-wa'd, despite all that they've said, he said, قُلْ هُوَ الرَّحْمَنُ. He is the most merciful. His doors are open for tawbah. Come back. Despite everything that he's been discussing, despite all what they've said, the horrible thing they've said, he said, he's the most merciful. Come back to him. And then he said, آمَنَّا بِهِ وَعَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْنَا. I want you to remember this. Do you know we say, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ? Right? This phrase is the critical ayah of Fatiha, and it summarizes the whole Quran. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. That's it. The whole Quran is summarized in this verse. This ayah here, آمَنَّا بِهِ وَعَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْنَا, does the same thing. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ آمَنَّا بِهِ إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ وَعَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْنَا. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's such, this phrase, this ayah, that's it. It tells him, here's the qaida, here is the solution for you. For you and I, people who want to benefit from Surah Mulk, this is it. آمَنَّا بِهِ وَعَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْنَا. If you want to take anything away from Surah Mulk, this is it. And it's described in Surah Al-Fatiha. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ, that means only you we worship. هذا الإخلاص للعباد. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. As Ibn Qayyim said, this is the, it's supposed to fix your arrogance. It's supposed to keep you humble, متواضع. يعني التوكل على الله يزيد تواضعك لله. وإياك نعبد, only you worship. إخلاص. مفهوم؟ فهذه two آيات, إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين, قالوا علماء من جهة العقيدة, it describe العبودية والربوبية. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. Why we do إياك نستعين? Only you, I ask for help, because He's the Rabb. He's the only one who can provide for us. He's the one who can give us what we need. He's the one who's going to help us in ibadah and everything we need. This is why it fixed that element of aqidah. And then he said, the last verse, and then inshallah, I'm going to go over the summary, the wrap-up, what takeaway from the surah. Because if we don't apply any of this, there's no need for any of this discussion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُمْ إِنْ أَصْبَحَ مَاءُكُمْ غَوْرًا فَمَنْ يَأْتِيكُمْ بِمَاءٍ مَعِينٍ. Now, what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala discuss? Think about water here. He wants to you, He said, have you considered if your water drain away? غَوْرًا is when the water disappears, when inside the ground. That's it. You cannot get a hold of it. That's what غَوْرًا means. فَمَنْ يَأْتِيكُمْ بِمَاءٍ مَعِينٍ. Who's going to bring you that pure running water? Now, what this ayah has to do with any of this that we've been discussing? Because water is the basic thing, blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We cannot live without water, right? The basic thing. And in the desert, in the Arab world, the water is one of the most precious things for them, right? So he's saying, this blessing water, this basic thing, if I take it away from you, who's going to get you that water, that rainwater for you? So he's telling them, and this is why this beautiful final reminder, it's to show you how human beings are so dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It reminds us our dependence on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even on that basic water, you know. And so this is one of the most basic necessity, which is water. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I can take this water away from you. Who's going to get you that water? Right? So now, because I know we're going to try to wrap this quickly, I'm going to go over, take away from Surah Al-Mulk. This is the most important part. Please listen carefully. Surah Al-Mulk it is meant to be recited with understanding. So that's why in anything to do with Quran, we've been talking about tadabbur, you have to first try to understand it. And number one, right? What is the 3 steps that I shared with you? What is the acronym? T, F, A. Remember? Think, feel, and act. In this surah, I use those steps. I share with you the steps. I share with you how you're supposed to feel about it. Either you're going to feel terrible because you're not following the command, or you might feel some hope because Allah is Rahman and is mentioned 4 times here, right? Or you maybe have some, of course, you're going to have love to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those are 3 elements of our iman: love, hope, and fear. In love, you can't help but loving Allah by reading Surah Mulk. It is absolutely one of the amazing surah. We discussed the universe and His creation, His perfection, how He provides for us, right? Everything. You can't help but loving Him. And then you fear Him because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes so much about the hellfire and the punishment and the situation, and sa'ir, and so forth, right? And then the 3rd element is raja, hope. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned Rahman how many times? 4 times. To tell you, the door are open. Just come back. Come back. So this surah is absolutely amazing. The first thing He said, it is protection from, by doing, comes from reflection. When you reflect on it and you internalize it, it's going to give you that, you should think about it, and it should give you that sense, that feeling. And then the next thing, you should act, the action. It internalized the message, changed the behavior, as we said. Okay. One of the ultimate, this is the ultimate takeaway, if you like. Next thing is it'll build thinking believer. You have to think. That's why in the whole Quran it said, أَفَلَا يَعْقِلُونَ أَفَلَا يَتَذَكَّرُونَ أَفَلَا يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. It's always Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to think, wants you to reflect. Look at His creation. Look at so many things Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created for us to reflect on and to question, to analyze. Next thing, it'll destroy the arrogance. How it destroy the arrogance? By showing weakness, ضعف الإنسان, and also the human dependence, and the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has absolute control of everything, from the fact that He creates the death and life, the fact that you are here just to be tested, the fact He's given you, He made this earth, subdue to you, provide for you. He challenged you about who's going to protect you, who's giving you rizq, who's doing this. Everything is about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here in the surah. It's really, it describes, is connecting you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how has full control. And then the next step, He said, it prepare you for the grave because it'll give you the sense of taqwa. Taqwa is, of course, is to do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala command you to do and to stay from what He, forbade you to do. So this taqwa, and it comes with ihsan and consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because He has full knowledge. And the humility, subhanAllah, wallahi, it gives you that sense of humility. You are nothing. You are absolutely nothing when you look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, creation, control, and accountability. The accountability. And then finally, the awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is so much, because the time is the essence here. I didn't want to go too deep. There's a lot to discuss, but I kept it a very high level. Adi, any reflection, question, anything you can add, Dr. Weil? I would love to hear from you.
Maybe I share one thought, or just one thought. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I'll just share one thought. When you had the ayah up there that says, قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُمْ إِنْ أَهْلَكَنِيَ اللَّهُ وَمَنْ مَعِيَ. The concept of being with the messenger, with the prophet, ma'iyah. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about believers, they don't talk about believers who believe in the messenger, even though they believe in the messenger, believe in Allah and His messengers. But throughout the Quran, you always find the idea of being with the messenger. فَلَمَّا جَاءَ أَمْرُنَا نَجَّيْنَا هودا والذين آمنوا به. When the punishment of Allah came, this is talking about the Prophet Hud, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved Hud and those who believed in him. Actually it says وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَعَهُ, to be with the Prophet. Same applies to Salih. وَجَّيْنَا صَالِحًا وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَعَهُ. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam here says, if Allah chose to make me and those with me perish, or chose to have mercy on us by giving us life. So the concept of being with the Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, there's a very interesting interpretation of حتى إذا جاء أمرنا وفارت النور. You know, one of the tafseer of when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Nuh alayhi salam that when our order, when our time comes, and then the flood is going to happen, the water is going to come, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him another sentence that says وَفَارَتْ النُّورِ. And the scholars kind of reflected on what that particular phrase means. And the popular tafsir is that there will be a sign given to Nuh alayhi salam that water is going to gush out of the oven. This is one of the tafsir. There are others that are also very legitimate. So I keep asking, why is that sign? Why not just tell Nuh alayhi salam 10 years from now or 2 years from now or tomorrow there will be a water coming, so make sure you get the believers in the ship so that when the water comes you can actually survive. But Allah did not tell him it's going to come tomorrow or it's going to come next month. Actually other prophets, in the maw'idahum as-subh, they're going to be punished tomorrow morning, so you better run. This is Prophet Lut alayhi salam. In Prophet Salih, قَالَ تَمَتَّعُوا فِي دَارِكُمْ ثَلَاثَةَ أَيَّامٍ. In 3 days, Allah will punish you for that sin that you did. But Nuh alayhi salam, there was no time. Just a sign. وَفَارَتْ التَّنُّورِ, when the water gushes out of the tanur. So some of the scholars who interpreted it to be the water coming out of the tanur, they said, why is that sign? And many of them said that the reason this sign is there is that if you are within the few believers around Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, and you know there is a sign that is going to come out, you won't go far. You will always be next to Nuh alayhi salam. You will always check with your brothers, did Nuh say anything, alayhi salam? And you go to Nuh, Prophet Nuh, any water coming out of the oven? So what is going to happen is that the believers will always be with the messenger. You cannot be ready far because you don't know when. You have to be with the messenger. You have to be with Hud. You have to be with Salih. You have to be with Lut. You have to be with Muhammad, because now you have the same destiny as Muhammad alayhi salam. But now there is no messenger around to be with. So whom are we going to be with? We're going to be with each other, because that's when the believers were around Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, they were with each other. Because that's the way to survive. That's when the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes, it comes to the believers who are together. So it just caught my ear that وَمَن مَعِيَ, those who are with me, not وَمَن آمَنَ بِي, those who are with me. So you have to be together, inshallah, with the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And if he's not around, then we have to be together around his message, around the deen, around the faith, around the masjid, around each other, so that when something good happens, it happens to us together. When something bad happens, Allah protects us together from it, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Sawan. Inshallah, is there any comments, anything? Sure. Seen? Oh. Dr. Why can add to this. You see that in Quran. قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُمْ قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُمْ. That doesn't mean physically seen. Can you vision? That's the word. Can you vision? That's the proper way. But أَرَيْتُمْ, you could be also physically seeing something. Yeah. Any other comments? Surah Al-Mulk is hard to break because it's not easy to, it's not like any other surah. But inshallah, when the idea from Surah Al-Mulk is really to understand and reflect on it, it changes your behavior, and that's how you, inshallah, you will be the winner on a grave. Any other? نعم. وعليه توكلنا. Right, so that's a good question. Yeah. Right. Sure. Right. Yeah. So some ulama said, قل هو الرحمن آمنا به. آمنا به means we believe in the ulama says, آمنا به, everything that he brought to us. But then he didn't say, وتوكلنا عليه. He didn't say that. آمنا به, the normal conversation should be آمنا به وتوكلنا عليه. وعليه توكلنا, this is called, what do you call it? I forget the word. Basically, exclusivity. Exclusivity. That means only him we have to rely on. Because if he said, وتوكلنا عليه, that means we can توكل عليه, we can توكل on something else also. We can توكل على, you know what I mean? He didn't say that. وعليه توكل. Same thing in Fatiha. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. He didn't say نستعين عليك. إياك. And this is why it's the exclusivity is very, very important. Jazakallah khair. Allahu alam, that's.
The question is, this is absolutely right.
Right.
It's possible to say tawakkaltu ala Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala,
Right.
but alayhi tawakkalna specifically in that point because the kuffar did not take away
Right.
their reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah.
They rely on Allah, but also they rely on
Exactly.
their rights and their statues.
Yeah.
So it was very important for the Prophet ﷺ to be told, وَعَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْنَا.
Right.
Not
Yeah.
your idols, not you. Not
Exclusively, right? Yeah, yeah.
Bihi amanna. Why not? And in him we believe.
Right, right.
It's more exclusive.
Sure, sure.
But some of the scholars say if we say in him we believe, it means in him only we believe. But as a believer, you should believe in Allah
Right.
and His messengers,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
His books, and the idea of judgment.
Exactly.
There are many things that come together with
Right.
believing in
Yeah,
Allah.
wallahi,
That's
this.
why it's alayhi,
Yeah.
tawakkalna, only him we rely
Right.
on, but amanna bihi, and
Yeah, yeah.
that come from him as you.
Jazakallah khair. This is very, I missed the point here. One of the ulama said, آمنا به is the whole arkan of iman. إيمان بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله. That's another interpretation. Jazakallah khair. Dr. Wa. Any other comment? Somebody asked me this question. Maybe Dr. White can help me. I've trying to explain this from someone ulama said there is nothing about the grave in Surah. Why is that? Where is the grave in this whole Surah? It was a very challenging question, right? So ulama says because you're going to be asked 3 questions, right? About your Lord, about your religion, and your prophet. So ulama said, and they're trying to attempt to explain why Surah Al-Mulk, how is that connected to the grave? They said the first thing is, when it comes to Allah, this surah, of course, speaks about Allah. It's all about Allah's perfection, dominions. That will take care of that question. Who is your Lord? Then comes the next question, who's your prophet? But where is that answer in this surah? The answer is in Sirat al-Mustaqim. Right? And remember the verse? Let me display. فمن يمشي مكبا على وجهه أهدى أم من يمشي سويا على صراط المستقيم. This is صراط المستقيم in our Surah Al-Fatiha. صراط المستقيم is what? Is our religion, Islam. And what the ulama attempted to say that this is what it's about, our religion. Allahu A'lam. صراط المستقيم. And by the way, do you remember the pattern I explained last week? It's all, what is the last letter of each verse? Before Sirat al-Mustaqim. Do you remember? It's just a trivia. Look. Nufor, Ghurur, Basir, Nakir, Nadir, Tamur. You see that? R. When you go to here, Sirat al-Mustaqim. This is where it breaks that pattern. And then it starts, qul, qul, qul. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala discussed the meaning, talk about hellfire, but then at the end, Sirat al-Mustaqim, which some ulama explained that Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then he starts talking to him himself. Qul, tell him, because I'm done with these guys. I don't want to talk to them anymore. You talk to them. Qul, 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 qul. And this is another little lata'if. So that's what happened to we said in grave, you asked 3 questions, right? We said about Allah, about the religion, and about the Prophet. And some ulama said, where is the religion in here? Some ulama attempted to say it's in this verse here. ما نزل الله من شيء أنتم إلا في ضلال كبير. Allahu alam, because maybe it's the religion. Allahu alam. I couldn't even find a clear answer for that, Dr. Weil. Where is the grave has to do with this? There's different ijtihadat and afar to say that, but the point is, rather than look for where is the grave in the surah, we should just think about how do we reform ourselves, how do we make ourselves better to prepare for the grave. That's really the message. I know we're getting close to the end. Any final thing? Sure. Sure. Right. Yeah, the question, as I said in the beginning of the surah, it's supposed to think, reflect, question, analyze. I think in Quran, like Dr. Weil, there's a lot of those verses that have those ayat. Some of them can be mocking, some of them could be a way of make you think, some of them, it's a question, but it's affirming something. Right? There's many ways of how questions are being asked in Quran, many styles. You want to?
Those are mostly rhetorical questions. Questions whose answer is clear. Like if I ask you, who you think the creator is? I know you know the answer. I know the answer. Everyone here knows the answer.
Right.
I could tell you Allah is the creator, but just asking the question make it a little bit more eloquent, because I am as if I am actually getting the answer from everyone in the room. These kuffar, they will answer in their mind that it has to be Allah. It's more eloquent than telling them it's only Allah who can get you the water from when it goes away. When Allah puts it down, when it goes deep, who can get you that water back? Right. The obvious answer is Allah. So it's a rhetorical question. The Prophet knows it's Allah. They know it's Allah. And this question will always ring, as you said, it will always bring about the obvious answer.
Yeah. Like
also, so many ayat. أَلَيْسَ ذَلِكَ بِقَادِرٍ عَلَىٰ أَنْ يُحْيِيَ الْمَوْتَى. Isn't he capable, listing the capabilities and abilities and the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And then you ask the question, isn't that obvious that he can, resurrect the dead? The answer is indeed, definitely. You don't have to have the answer. You don't even have to say the answer. People repeat it in the salah, as you said. You don't actually. It's not that, especially in Salatul Fard, it's not that recommended that you answer the imam by saying bala or yes or because it's not meant for. The question is not meant to be answered. The question is meant to be obviously answered in your mind and your heart.
You're supposed to internalize it.
Internalize. So it's most of the questions. Sometimes the obvious answer makes the statement stronger. Sometimes the obvious answer, as you said, ridicules the other party, like telling them, what do you think this is? This one is kind of also belittling them a little bit because they deserve it. And sometimes it's an encouragement. Like for example, قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُمْ إن أهلكني الله ومن معي أو رحمنا فمن يجير الكافرين من عذاب أليم. It's a question also. Don't you think if Allah chose to make me perish or have mercy on me, who is going to protect the disbelievers? This is comforting to the Prophet because the Prophet knows Allah will have mercy on him. And this is threatening to them because Allah, if Allah punishes them, it will punish them. So the question sometimes is much stronger than stating the obvious answer.
And there are 6 questions in the surah. أَمَّنْ هَذَا الَّذِي يَرْزُقُكُمْ إِنْ أَمْسَكَ رِزْقَهُ. What about the one who is providing for you? Who's gonna, أَمَّنْ هَذَا. There's like 6 questions. Always wants you to reflect. It's the same thing when you talk to your child and said, hey, who has been providing for you? Who's giving you money? You know what I mean? It's like, who? Your father, of course, me. But you tell that to your son sometimes just to emphasize that who's providing for you. Wallah, walillahi al-mathil a'la. Yeah. Yeah, and those 6 questions, subhanAllah, it's all amazing. When you start thinking about, what is Allah asking me? Why is He asking me? He's asking you who's protecting you, right? He's asking you, أَمَّنْ هَذَا الَّذِي يَرْزُقُكُمْ مِنْ أَمْسَكَ. And then He's talking about Jundun, right? Who's going to protect you? If Allah send you hasiba from sun, from the sky, what happened if Allah made the earth opened up, right? Destroyed like He did to Qarun. He's asking you, who's going to protect you? And subhanAllah, there's like so many beautiful, beautiful Surah Mulk. When you think about it, it really has that awakening.
One last comment from me. Usually, this is a bad reflection on the Quran when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the unbelievers or to the unbelievers. We kind of switch off because He's not talking to us. But subhanAllah, the majority of the Quran is going to be read and believed in by the believers. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He says, قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُمْ إِنْ أَصْبَحَ مَاؤُكُمْ غَوْرًا فَمَنْ يَأْتِيكُمْ بِمَاءٍ مَعِينٍ. This is Allah telling the messenger to tell the unbelievers that if the water goes away, who is going to bring you that water? But the believer should always remember that all the ni'mah, and all the rizq, and all the blessings, and all the favors, and all the wealth, and all the health is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if Allah takes it away, He is the only one who can bring it back. Exactly. So we shouldn't feel entitled for any of the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the kuffar feel entitled. They feel that they deserve this ni'mah. And if there is a day of judgment, they will get something similar. But the believer is always not feeling entitled, feeling in gratefulness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Always thinking that the ni'mah is from Allah and I have to pay back that ni'mah by worshipping Him, by obeying Him. So even though it's addressing the kuffar,
absolutely.
But we should always be in remembrance of that fact that every وَمَا بِكُم مِّن نِعْمَةٍ فَمِنَ اللَّهِ.
خير إن شاء الله. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. جزاكم الله خير. May Allah accept from us and put this in our scale. نعمل صالح خالصا. صلى الله